Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope you had a nice weekend and were able to relax a little and do something that you loved. So, this week is week 12, and we're going to review the 5 components of reading and start preparing your thematic unit to be submitted for the end of the semester. But first of all, I just want to say you guys did a great job with your read aloud lesson plans from last week. I already watched and left some feedback. Those of you that posted your videos throughout the week, I haven't had an opportunity yet to watch the ones that were posted over the weekend, but I so enjoyed getting to see your faces and actually getting to see you guys, and you did a great job with your read aloud. So I will be grading your read aloud lesson plans and be watching over your videos over the next couple days, and I will post your grades for that on grades, as well as your second lab reflection. So I'll read over those and post your grade and send you your feedback for your lesson plans. So let's start talking about Module 12, which is about the 5 components of reading. And so we covered this a little bit when we went over language arts, because it was included in that, but I just want to spend some time going on over this in a little more detail. And I know those of you that have had Foundations of Literacy with Mrs. Hermstead, I think this must be is covered in that class as well. So you know when you're hearing it more than one time, you know it's really important. So I have a couple of resources that I've linked here for you on the 5 components of reading. I encourage you to start with this first one, which is a video. This is a current teacher who she's explaining the 5 components of reading. She gives you some examples of what it looks like in her classroom and some relevant information of when she was a first year teacher, some mistakes that she made, some problem solving that she did, and I think you'll enjoy it. She's young and upbeat, and she does a nice job going over the 5 components of reading. I also included this resource here that is an article that goes over each of the components: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, and gives you some examples of each one. Just to add my 2 cents to it, one of the things that I was always taught about phonemic awareness is just simply manipulating the sounds that you hear. So think about if you went into let's say you went into your closet, which I know that sounds silly, but let's say you go into your closet and the lights are off and it's complete dark. You would still be able to do phonemic awareness because it would be thinking of rhyming words, breaking a word apart for the sounds that you hear in it. So in the word cat, you hear k, a, t. Let's say you take the k sound off and you put b. What's the new word? B, at, bat. So it's manipulating the sounds, thinking of rhymes. It's all stuff that you really could do in the dark, right? So that's a good way to remember if it's phonemic awareness or not. It's breaking down and manipulating the sounds that you hear in words. Now, phonics is actually connecting the sounds to the name of the letter that makes that sound. So if we go back to the example of cat, in the word cat, the sound k is made by C, the sound a is made by A, the sound t is made by T. So if we take the C off and we put the B, what's the new word? Bat. What letter does your name start with? So phonics is actually connecting sounds to letters and letter combinations. So fluency is the rate and expression in which we read. When we read, we want to read in such a way where we sound like we're having a conversation with someone. We don't want it to be monotone or flat, but we want it to be engaging and enthusiastic. We want to pay attention to punctuation. And for young children, like first graders, they're starting to work on reading with some speed, because they're getting to the point, especially this time of the year, where they're not having to decode every single word that they say, but they're actually starting to work on fluency. So can we work on fluency with preschoolers? Yes, sure we can. It would be like having a poem or a finger play or something like that, where you're reciting it and you're doing it with them. Are they reading it off a poster? Well, not really. They're repeating it after you or they're saying it from memory, but still you're getting them to work on their fluency as far as how that they're saying it. Even Leilani at age 3, she likes to sing or do the finger plays like Five Little Monkeys Sitting on the Bed or what's the one with the frog on the log? Those are all great examples of fluency for older toddlers and for preschoolers. So vocabulary are the words that they need to understand or comprehend what's being discussed or read. So in your read aloud last week, you included some vocabulary words that you identified the children would need to know in order to better understand the word. I've heard some people also include sight words in vocabulary as well. And then comprehension, of course, is understanding what they have read. Did they understand what the characters were doing or what the plot of the story was or the book? So how well did they actually understand what they read? I have another resource for you. It's a closer look at the 5 essential components of reading. So this is more of a research-based article that is more in depth, going over each component and providing some examples. So it's up to you, if you read this or not. But if you do, I think you'll get a little bit better understanding of the how, the why, the what of the 5 components of reading and some sample ideas as well. So those are the resources that I have posted for you. Your only assignment to turn in to me this week is a discussion board. So for this discussion board, I'd like you to pretend it's open house night at your school or center. And you need to explain to your parents, your families, the 5 components of reading. So how would you explain each component, the value of each component, and explain a sample or example activity of each component? So explain to us what it would be. So please post your forum, your response, and reply to at least one classmate by midnight on Sunday, okay? So that's what's actually due Sunday for this week. Now, next week, your 5 components of reading group activity are due. So I know it's been a while since we've been together in person, but I had assigned you each a partner to work with. Since we did have one person drop the class, Haley, I'm going to put you with Colleen and Lauren, and you guys will do phonemic awareness and phonics. Michaela and Branda, you'll do fluency. Danica and Sarah, comprehension. And then Haley W. and Sydney, you will do vocabulary. So please work with your partner this week, beginning of next week, to come up with your 5 components of reading presentations. So with your 5 components of reading presentation, you can prepare a PowerPoint, a Weebly, whatever type of visual, infographic, whatever type of visual you would like to present to explain the 5 components that you were given, and then come up with 5 activities. So for instance, if you had vocabulary, you would come up with some type of visual, PowerPoint, Weebly, whatever, to explain vocabulary. And then you would come up with 5 vocabulary activities that would be appropriate for preschool or kindergarten to share with us. So everyone will work with their presentation, and next week's discussion board will be a place for you to post your presentations and share with the class. And I'll ask you to reply to each other's presentations and components. So collectively, the whole class, we will have 25 activities because we will have 5 activities for each of the components. So again, you and your partner will explain the component that you have and come up with 5 activities for your component that will go into your presentation. And that is what is due next week. Okay, so that'll be next week. One more thing I'd like you to begin thinking about is how you can create your thematic unit digitally. Okay, so there's a couple different options. So your thematic unit is going to be due on April 26th. And I'm going to ask you to post the digital version of that onto a discussion board. So that'll be week 14. So for the lessons that you did before we started remote learning, you should have the rubric where you taught it and the different things for that. I know some of you might have been caught in the middle where maybe you didn't quite get to teach that last lesson, which that's fine. And then of course the language arts and read aloud, you won't be implementing those with the children. But the resources that you do have, your lesson plans, your integrated activities, the rubrics that you do have, we need to figure out how we can share those digitally. So I have a couple ideas for you. If you had assessment of young children with me, or if you had CIS 108, you learned how to do um, a Google site. So when you're on my DTC, I can't say it, my DTCC, if you click on resources and go down to technology, you have your Google Drive here. Everyone has one. You can actually create a folder or a website that you can use to showcase. So what I'm doing right here is I'm clicking on new, and I can come down here to more, and I can click on Google Sites. And this is actually going to create a website free of charge through the Google services. So you could create a different tab for each of your components of your thematic unit. So you could do a home page, and then you can go over here to page and click this little button here to add a new page. What was the first thing you did? Social studies. Done. Okay. And then the next thing you did was science. So you can add a new page, science, and then you can keep going through math, language arts, read aloud. So then if you come over here to social studies, you can then insert, and you could insert your lesson plans, pictures of your rubric, all the things that you had, your additional 5 integrated activities. So you can put that directly here onto your Google site. So that's one way of doing it. So one thing you do have to make sure of though is your privacy is set so that I can see it, or else no one will be able to see it. I won't be able to see it. So I'm naming my site, and then I need to come over here, and be able to share it. So it's published. Anyone at Delaware Tech can see it. So I'm good here. Okay, so you need to make sure anyone can see it. Okay, so that's one option. Another option would be if you click new, you could do it more of a PowerPoint, which is Google Slides. So this is just like you would normally do Microsoft PowerPoint or Word PowerPoint, and you could make a slide for each of the different things and put your lesson plans and your integrated activities and your rubrics right on there. One more option, go over here to new, you could do a folder, and you can actually create a folder. And let's see, I have a lot of things on my Google Drive because I use it for everything. On your Google Drive, you would then have a folder. Oh, here it is. And you can make a folder within the folder to put all of your files. So that's one way. I know some of you use Microsoft instead of Google. That's fine as long as you have the privacy settings set so that I could see it. If you just put everything onto a folder on your own laptop and then zip the folder in order to try to send it to me, we could try it that way, but I'm a little worried that maybe the file would be too large. And then last option, which I would prefer you not do this, but if you've got to do this, then you got to do it, is if you make it all a hard copy digital binder, You could make a YouTube video of yourself going through your binder and showing me everything that's in it. So that's an option. So I went over a lot with you today. I'm on